Jorge Martin is still leading the MotoGP World Championship, and this weekend at the German Grand Prix, he stood in front of his own factory and explained exactly why that lead is about to disappear. Not rust, not the injuries that wrecked his last campaign, the bike. The same Aprilia that carried him to the top of the standings, he now says, is the reason he cannot stay there. The championship leader looked at the people building his motorcycle and, in public, on the record, told them the machine is the problem. So why is the man in front suddenly talking like someone about to lose everything? And what exactly did Aprilia just get told, with the whole paddock listening? Here is what makes this dangerous. Martin does not lead by a comfortable margin anymore. Behind him, the entire title fight has compressed into almost nothing. The top 5 riders are now covered by 24 points, and the man with the momentum is Marc Marquez, who was more than 100 points adrift a few rounds ago and has clawed his way back to within 18. Marquez just won everything there was to win in Germany. Martin finished 5th, banked the points, and admitted he was nowhere near the front. When the leader gets beaten on a Sunday by the 2 men chasing him hardest, the standings stop being a cushion and start being a countdown. And Martin knows exactly what's counting down. Rewind to the first half of this season, and Martin looked like the benchmark of the entire grid. A sprint win in the United States, a double at the French Grand Prix, a run of results that turned Aprilia, a factory that had spent years almost getting there, into the bike everyone else was suddenly measuring themselves against. That version of Martin is the reason he is still top of the standings today. Every point of his lead was banked in those weeks. Then the winning stopped. Not with a crash, not with a fresh injury, just a slow, grinding fade from the front to the edges of the top 5. And the official story wrote itself. Martin got hurt badly last year, lost huge chunks of racing, and everyone assumed this was simply what rebuilding looks like. Ring rust, a champion shaking off the layoff lap by lap until the speed returned on its own. Except Martin has now stood up and rejected that story to Aprilia's face. He is not asking for patience while he finds his rhythm. He is pointing at the machine. Here is what he actually said. I think now we are quite far away from the bike we used in the first part of the season in Austin, in Brazil, in Le Mans. Martin told reporters at the Sachsenring. Sit with that sentence. He is not describing a bad weekend. He is describing a bike that has drifted so far from its winning form that he no longer recognizes it underneath him. The machine that built his championship lead and the machine he is riding now are, by his own account, 2 different motorcycles. And he had not even reached the uncomfortable part yet. Then he explained why, and this is where it stops being a complaint and starts being an accusation. Every weekend, Martin said, his side of the garage tears the bike apart, chasing the setup for each new circuit. From my side of the box, we are always trying to adapt the bike to the different track to try to help me, he said. But maybe this is not the way for the Aprilia. Let that land. That is the championship leader telling his own engineers their entire working method might be wrong. Not one setting, the whole direction, all. And then came the line that should have frightened everyone in that garage. Martin admitted he is no longer even the fastest Aprilia on the track. We are really far away from the rest, he said, and really far away from the other Aprilias. Think about what that does to his own argument. If the bike were simply bad, all of them would be drowning. They are not. The other RS-GP riders are closer to the front than he is. The man sitting second in this entire championship, closer to Martin than Marquez is Ai Ogura on a satellite Aprilia, thriving on the very same machine where the factory leader is lost. So the problem is not the Aprilia. The problem is the specific Aprilia they have built around Jorge Martin and the direction they chose for him this year. Now watch him kill the excuse everyone tried to hand him. The easy read was confidence. A rider still flinching after a brutal injury year. Martin buried it. It's not that I don't feel confident, he said. It's that I lose the front. That is not a man protecting his ego. That is a man refusing the comfortable narrative on purpose, because the comfortable narrative puts the blame on him. He would rather tell the world the front end is folding than let anyone file this under rust. He even traced it to the base of the bike, saying it simply has less grip than the machines he has ridden before. The message could not be cleaner. Fix the bike, not the rider. So let us say plainly what just happened, because the paddock will dress it up, and Martin will not. On the surface, this looked like a champion managing expectations after a rough patch. It was not. It was the championship leader putting his own factory on notice, in the one window where he holds maximum leverage, and they hold almost none. Because look at the board around him. Marquez has turned a 100-point deficit into 18 and is winning everything in sight. And Aprilia's only other factory spearhead, Marco Bezzecchi, is not even racing. He crashed heavily in qualifying at the Sachsenring, broke his collarbone, flew to Italy for surgery, and will be lucky to make the British Grand Prix. In a single weekend, Aprilia lost one title threat to a hospital bed, and watch the other one, the man actually leading the championship, stand up and say the bike is wrong. That is the flip. This was never really a story about Jorge Martin losing his speed. It is a story about Jorge Martin refusing to carry the blame for it. His lead was built by a bike that no longer exists. His nearest challenger is accelerating, and his own team's backup plan is in a sling. Make no mistake about what this is. This is not a rider whining about his tools. This is one of the sharpest political operators on the grid using the only leverage that ever truly moves a factory: results and the threat of losing them. Martin is the champion Aprilia fought so hard to sign, the name that justifies their entire project, and he has just told them, on the record, in front of every rival and every journalist, that the way they are building his bike is costing them a title they have never won and may never get this close to winning again. The genius of it is the timing. He did not say this in winter testing when talk is cheap. He said it while leading the championship, while Marquez surges and Bezzecchi bleeds, at the exact moment Aprilia cannot afford to argue back. If they change the bike and he wins, he was right all along. If they refuse and the lead evaporates, the quotes are already sitting on the record, showing the world whose fault it was. Martin has not just diagnosed his own slump. He has made sure history will blame the machine and the men who built it, and never him. So the real question was never whether Jorge Martin can find his speed again. It is whether Aprilia is brave enough to admit their leader is right before the lead is gone. Fair pressure, or a champion throwing his own team under the bus? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.